Thank you, everyone who was able to join me today. We are here to talk about self-care for the holidays and Dr. Wayne Dyer's book, No More Holiday Blues. You may not have heard of this one before, so I want to give a moment just to let people join. I want to make sure I'm going to be able to see you here. Let me know where you're joining us from. And give me just 1 second. Okay. All right, so I hope that you can see me and hear me okay. I have not seen any comments pop up. Sometimes they just don't work right. So my apologies if you're writing something and I don't see you. But we're gonna go ahead and move forward and get the live going. Oh, Carrie, you're joining from Colorado. Wonderful. I am here in Seattle, Washington. And if you haven't come to one of our lives before, my name is Nadia Delacruz, and I started the Wayne Dyer Wisdom Community back in 2015, a few days after Wayne died. He had a huge influence on my spiritual path, and I read just about everything he wrote. I had the opportunity to see him in person several times, which I am so grateful for. And I was just devastated when I got the news that he passed away. It was so sudden and so unexpected and just heartbreaking. He was the same age as my dad, so he's kind of a father figure to me. And Wayne just really touched my heart. I love the way that he would get so excited when he was on stage talking to an audience, and his books just lit me up. And he gave me a glimpse of what's possible in life, and that was more than 20 years ago. And I am still passionate about Dr. Wayne Dyer and spirituality. Those are my two favorite things to talk about. This is a perfect place for me. The Wayne Dyer Wisdom Community has just it's brought a lot of love into my life in the form of meeting you guys and other people who are passionate about Wayne and interested in spirituality. And really, he's gone 7 years now. He's been gone for 7 years, but I really believe that we can keep this conversation going. And that's why we're here. Okay, so I apologize for starting a few minutes late. Today had a few technical difficulties, but we have gotten through that, and here we are. If you haven't checked out my podcast, it's called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. It's inspired by the life and teachings of Dr. Wayne Dyer. Many of my episodes are actually guest interviews with people sharing their own stories of transformation and how they've overcome things in their life. Some also who knew Wayne or were just influenced by his teachings. And that's one of my favorite things is getting to talk to you. So, big news, today is our first Zoom call. So yes, you're with me on Facebook Live. If you'd like to join me afterwards at 5 o'clock Pacific, we are going to move over to Zoom for the first time ever for a spiritual discussion group. I've been talking about doing this for years, and I'm so excited to see your faces and give you an opportunity to get in on the conversation. The comments are great. Thank you for everyone who's commenting. But I want to see your faces and I want to get some conversation going. So if that's something that you're interested in, there is a link in the event description for this event. There's also another event posted in the group for the spiritual discussion group on Zoom. Amazingly, so many of you signed up. Thank you. I feel very blessed. But if you are planning to go to the Zoom discussion group at 5 o'clock, go sign up now because it's almost full. Yes, I'll see you there at 5 o'clock. Okay. Now we are talking today about holiday self-care and Dr. Wayne Dyer's book, No More Holiday Blues. This was originally published under the title Happy Holidays. I bet a lot of you didn't know he had this book. It's really small, short, and sweet. And we're going to be incorporating some things about self-care and some things about Wayne's advice. And I will be talking more about this topic on the next podcast episode. So the podcast is called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. The next episode comes out on Sunday. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can get all the links and more information at nadiadelacruz.com. Okay. All right. So yeah. Welcome. I started the group in 2015. Here we are. I started the podcast in 2020. It's been awesome. The Zoom calls coming later. Also, if you'd like to support me, the best way that you can do that is to go to my Patreon page, and that's patreon.com/Nadia Delacruz. There is a link for that on my website as well. And if you're able to support me in any way, it really means a lot. All right. Okay, let's check who's joining us here. Valerie had some audio issues. I'm glad you can hear me now. Love you, darling. Kimberly is joining us from Florida. Scott from Alberta. I have family up there. Alina from Las Vegas. Carrie. Thank you, everyone who dropped a comment. If you just joined us, let us know where you're joining us from. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about self-care. What it is and what it isn't. I think it's really a buzzword these days. It's not something that people were talking about so much in 1986 when this book was written, but it's something we hear a lot about today. Maybe it's a different way of talking about just sort of taking care of yourself. I don't know if it's a new term or a new concept, because I feel like we have an increased sensitivity, awareness of people's needs, and people widely believe that if you're shy or introverted, it was like a character flaw or something that needed to be fixed. I hope we're at a point now where we don't think that anymore. Yes. So self-care can involve many of the traditional methods of pampering that we think of, like massages and bubble baths or spa services. But these comfort and luxury items do little to soothe us unless our basic needs are being met. And if you sacrifice what you want and ignore how you're feeling in order to say yes to an invitation or do something you really didn't want to do, later you might complain, feel resentful at spending energy, time, or money that you didn't have. So self-care is a lot about just being mindful of what your own needs are and checking in with where you're at. Instead of feeling like a victim to long-standing traditions in your family, remember that you always have choices. If something isn't working for you, you can either change the circumstances or change the way you look at it, do something different or find something to love about what you're doing if you're going to do it anyway. Otherwise, you're just making yourself miserable, honestly. You can try shifting your attitude to one that finds something that you can genuinely feel excited about. Positive anticipation goes a long way. Wayne talks about that in his book. And, you can always choose to change things up this year. Keep what's working for you. Keep what lights you up. Keep what's maybe the favorite for your family. And let some of the other things go. It doesn't have to be super busy. You don't have to go over the top. You can make this your best holiday season yet. So what is self-care? Well, it's really all the steps that you take to manage stress in your life and take care of your own health and well-being. It sounds simple, but it's this balance. It's this moving target. Kelsey Patel says people are feeling lonelier and less able to unwind and slow down, which makes them feel more anxious and overwhelmed by even the simplest tasks. Do you feel that? I think that's why we're more likely to snap at the little things, because we just haven't had a chance to take a breath. What we're looking for to bring that balance is connection and relaxation. Human connection, meaningful relationships, quality time, and relaxation. Not just getting enough sleep, but having enough time to just unwind and just be. We're human beings, not human doings. Self-care is anything that you do for yourself that feels nourishing. Sounds good, right? It requires checking in with yourself every day, really, and ask yourself how you're doing and what your body's asking for. Here's some examples of things that you can do to maintain self-care. Get enough sleep, spend time in nature, exercise, meditate, eat more fruit and vegetables, drink your water, be kind to yourself, watch that self-talk, take a break from the news or social media, take time for yourself, and pay attention to how your body feels. Respect your own nervous system by taking breaks when you need them and not getting overstimulated or overtaxed. I think that's challenging at this time of year when there's kind of a lot of stimulation around decorations and gifts and activities and parties and social things. In the last couple of years, maybe things had slowed down, but I think we're feeling the energy, maybe the expectation to get back to all the things. But if you're not ready for that, or if you find that that was never working for you, this is the year to change it. Self-advocate for what you need and be willing to do things differently. You can rethink those traditions and really decide what's meaningful for you. And again, remember, you always have choices. That's your point of power. Don't just live with something that you hate. Find a way to love it or change it, whichever one works for you in that scenario. Everyone's definition of self-care is going to be unique. So do what brings you more sustained joy, nourishing body, mind, and soul. Be mindful and tune into your own needs. So why are we even talking about this now? We're talking about self-care during the holidays because so many people feel really challenged. I'm going to read you a section from Dr. Wayne Dyer's book, No More Holiday Blues, where he touches on, the difficulties that people commonly face this time of year. This is the time for happiness, right? 'Tis the season to be jolly with lots of ho-ho-hos, bells jingling, children smiling, and happy, happy feelings everywhere. You hear these sentiments in all of the music, view the beautiful scenes in store windows and holiday cards, see people celebrating the coming of the holidays, the new year, families reunited, and note festive parties and exquisite meals. With this preponderance of happy time spirits, everywhere, one would think this would be the time of the year when people would forget their troubles, let their hair down, and really enjoy themselves. But this is not the case. The season to be jolly is hardly the way it is at all. In fact, the opposite is often true. People tend to increase their dependencies on tranquilizers. The number of episodes of depression rise significantly, and admissions to inpatient treatment centers and visits to psychotherapists show increases during and immediately following this season. Perhaps most shocking of all is that the suicide rate shows a marked upsurge at this time of year. This is no joke. It's really serious. With all of the emphasis on festive celebration, it is ironic that people become more anxious and depressed now than during the rest of the year, which is supposed to be full of dull routine and maddening sameness. It is not at all uncommon to hear people say, I can't wait until the holidays are over and things return to normal, or I hate the pressure of the holidays. I wish Christmas and New Year's would be banned. You do not have to join in on the big holiday letdown. In fact, you can make this particular year-end celebration a beautiful, fulfilling experience. Thank you, Wayne. So how are you feeling? Have you thought about it yet? Has it sunk in? Is anything coming up for you? If there's anything you want to share, put it in the comments. So some of the common challenges for this time of year might be consumerism, the pressure to spend all this money, bills piling up, inflation is up, as we know, so the cost of everything is higher. Gift-giving commitments, traditions, and expectations, and let's not discount seasonal changes. So I'm here in Seattle, and it is cold and dark and wet for pretty much November through, February. We don't get a lot of snow. When we do, it completely shuts down the roads because we're all hills, and it doesn't happen often enough for us to have snow plows and things like that. But so many people are affected by seasonal affective disorder. It's a real thing. If you don't get your body out into the sunlight, you're going to feel it. And some people are going to feel that more than others. So you can get, a daylight lamp in your house. Even just increasing the lights can make a big difference. And, take it seriously. You are a part of nature. And so you are a cyclical being. These seasons are meant to impact you the same way it impacts the animals that are outside. Many of them right now are, collecting up things for the winter to get all nestled in. They're active less hours of the day. Lots of them hibernate. We were up at Mount Rainier recently and there's marmots there. Did you know that marmots hibernate like half of the year? I don't know how they survive that long, but they do. But what I'm saying is that I really believe that we feel these things. And if we're paying attention to the cycles and the seasons and honoring that we're a part of it, then you might feel drawn to be less active and spend less time out of the house and kind of, snuggle in and do more of the cozy things. It doesn't mean we want to isolate. We still need meaningful community connections, family and friends. That's important. We're probably going to be meeting inside. But instead, culturally, what we do is we amp it up. We're like, winter, let's amp it up. Do this, do that, buy that, spend more, and it can be too much. Now, I'm sure there are people who love all of that and feed off the energy. And if you do, well, you're probably not at this call because you're not looking for tips for self-care if this is the time when you're flying high on the season. But if it can be a little bit too much and you're just looking for, some shifts that you can make in your life, that's what we're talking about here today. I want to point out that a lot of the magic making that happens in the holidays is from mothers. And so Wayne's going to talk about in this book, bringing back the enthusiasm of childhood. And I can't really look at that without acknowledging that one of the reasons that maybe Christmas felt magical the way we remember it is because of all the things that our parents were doing, and especially our moms usually. The decorations and the presents and the wrapping and the meals and the cookies and the visiting the neighbors and all the things. And maybe she was exhausted and burned out. And I think that we don't want to carry that forward to our children, who when they become adults, they're going to model that and they're going to burn themselves out too. If we can model for the next generation how to take care of yourself, that you matter too, that gets passed down. That's going to help our kids when they grow up. And I think most powerful of all, one of the hardest things that comes up during the holidays is grief. Now, if someone that you love died this year or passed away recently, this may be the time that you would normally be celebrating with them. So their absence is felt that much more. Or it's also a marker for the passage of time. We have these rituals around the holidays, and it marks a new year. Literally coming up 2 years, but once a year we celebrate Christmas, for example, if that's a holiday that you celebrate. And so when Christmas comes back around and grandma's not there or mom's not there or your sister's not there, whatever it is, you're going to need to process that. So, one thing that we can do is to find a way to include those people in our celebration. It might sound kind of weird at first because how am I going to include them? They're dead. But you still have love to give, They say that's what grief is. It's like love with nowhere to go. So point it in a direction that makes sense to you. So you might put a picture of your loved one up at the celebration. You might light a candle for those who can't be there. Some people will do an extra place setting. You might tell stories about that person or bring their favorite dish to the holiday. And if you don't feel like doing any of that and it's too fresh, that's okay. That's okay. Maybe just have a quiet conversation with your loved one in the morning, all by yourself. Grab a cup of tea. Tell them how you really feel. They're listening. They're really listening. They're just in the next room. If you're feeling depressed, the best advice that I have found is to find an opportunity to be of service. Can you imagine how many people are in need right now? It might be in a small way. It might be in a big way. You could volunteer at a shelter or a soup kitchen. You could just check in on your neighbor, do something nice for a friend of yours. But it takes us out of ourselves. And then not only do we make that person feel better, we make ourselves feel better at the same time. Doing for others is a powerful cure for depression. You will not only find connection and purpose, ease the burdens of another, but you might just find that you've lifted your own mood and sense of well-being at the same time. It's a win-win. My point in all of this, talking about self-care, is that your feelings matter. I do not at all believe that you should just put on a happy face, just be positive. I would rather have you be authentic than positive every day of the year. You know, better out than in. First of all, you can't move on if you push those feelings inside and you push them into your body and they just create illness and dis-ease. If you feel resistant or sad about anything, pay attention to that feeling. Give it some room to breathe. Listen to what it has to tell you. Pay attention to what your body's asking for. It's a great barometer. And you know, we'll use Christmas as an example. Holidays haven't always been celebrated this way. If you look back at the history of any holiday, you'll find that traditions have merged and evolved. Christmas didn't used to be a gift-giving holiday like it is today. Celebrations were in large part centered around the winter solstice and the return of the light. It was communal and tied to the seasons of nature. I think it'd be really good if we still include some of that and remind ourselves that we are part of the world. The world, the earth peoples the way an apple tree apples. You came from this planet. Now your soul is eternal and transcends all of that. But you are not an alien that landed here. You are a piece of this. And the way that you function and what your needs are is tied to all of those seasons of nature. Thank you, Mother Earth, for all that you give us. May we take better care of you so that we can survive a little longer. All right. Let's get into Wayne's book, No More Holiday Blues. So you know what? I've had this book for, I don't know, a number of years. I actually talked about it in December of 2020. If you caught the Facebook Live, I did back then. And I just noticed this year, it says it was originally published as Happy Holidays. And if you'd like to nerd out with me for a moment, I turned to the detail. And it says a hardcover edition of this book was published under the title Happy Holidays by William Merrow and Company in 1986. It is reprinted here by arrangement with Arthur Pine Associates Incorporated. Artie Pine! Oh my goodness. I remember Wayne talking about his first literary agent, Artie Pine. Artie Pine, there his name is. I just love that. Okay, I'm a big Wayne Dyer nerd, but still, if you don't know the history, Artie Pine's wife came to Wayne's first public lecture, went home to her husband and said, "This guy is great. You should talk to him about writing a book." Artie goes to Wayne and was like, "Hey, have you thought about writing a book?" And he's like, "Actually, I just finished this manuscript that I haven't done anything with yet." And he's like, "Oh, well, let's get it published." That was your erroneous zones. So thank you, Artie Pine, for your role in all of this. So this book is in 4 sections. We're pretty much going to talk about 2 of them today. The first one is Cultivate Childlike Enthusiasm. It's titled The Holidays Are for Children, So Be a Child Again. And then we're going to talk about Make This Your First No Limit Holiday Season. I will be back here next month to share another section in the book that talks about New Year's. So we will continue this in December. Children have given themselves permission to be free, and they show it by becoming totally absorbed in their play. You can become a person who enjoys his or her tasks rather than is defeated by them. You can attack all of the responsibilities you have with a little less seriousness, and you can make all of your goals more fun to accomplish. Wayne says, develop an attitude of wide-eyed enthusiasm about everything you undertake or observe. He's got some good advice here. He goes on to say, you may have come to believe that because you pay all the bills, assume all of the responsibilities, do the chores, and generally work extra hard during the holiday period, it is impossible for you to have that innocent childlike appreciation for this time of year. This is patently false and something you must challenge. You and only you must take responsibility for your own fulfillment, whether it be Christmas, Hanukkah, or an Independence Day picnic. If you've become overburdened during the holiday season, then it is because you have willingly adopted this role for yourself. He does not want us to play the victim here. So he's got some tips about how to change your expectations this holiday season. He says, enjoy the decorations and look for the beauty around you. Slow down. Slow down. Make the experience of shopping and being out in the world something you enjoy for itself. Give yourself permission to enjoy all aspects of this holiday season. And stop viewing the holiday as one long season, and instead, take it moment by moment to enjoy every little facet of it for yourself. For example, make gift wrapping a total experience in itself rather than a chore that you must accomplish before some self-imposed deadline. Is anybody here familiar with Radley Valentine? He's another Hay House author. He loves Christmas, and I remember him talking about how he would make the gift wrapping like a whole day. He would put Christmas music on, light some candles, get all his wrapping paper and pretty bows out and all the gifts he bought for everybody. And he would just make a day of it, and he loved it. And I thought that was so inspiring to make the process enjoyable and not be so focused on that end goal. And last but not least, be more spontaneous. If you have a completely planned out life, knowing where you are headed with all of your goals spelled out, and you're obsessive about organization, cleanliness, and orderliness in your life, then you've not only forgotten how to be a child, you stifled that wonderful little person inside of you. This goes out to all my perfectionists out there. I feel you. I definitely got the mind of a planner. But if we over-plan, then we don't leave space for other things to come in. Leave more space into your life. Okay. Carrie said she's feeling overwhelmed because of a traumatic breakup. Family feels like you should be over it, and you're feeling pressure to move forward. Carrie, take it at your own time. Really. I mean, I think especially for the holidays, we're looking for that connection. We're looking for that love. We want to share this with somebody special. So if somebody that you thought you were going to be spending this holiday with isn't there, then of course it's going to be painful. And, you can't put a timeline on grief. The end of a relationship is still grief. You've got to let go of what you thought was going to be. So I'm sending you love. Valerie says she's feeling anxious and sad, and she's having trouble getting her family to come together successfully. Never even close to a Hallmark holiday. Yeah, but who has a Hallmark holiday? I mean, honestly, I know those movies are so popular, and I've seen a few of them, but they're kind of painful to watch because they're so, scripted, they're so like over the top. Everything's perfect, and whatever the problem is, it's super simple and really romantic. But honestly, Valerie, nobody has a Hallmark holiday. I mean, I love my family and I get so excited to celebrate with my two little kids, but it's never going to be like you imagine it to be, or it's never going to be perfect scenario. There's always timeline issues or disappointments. And I think that whatever you're feeling is important. So don't feel the pressure to be happy just because it's the Christmas season. Feel what you feel, and take that as a call to listen to what you need. It's not about doing for family. That's a lovely overflow of what you do for yourself, but you got to fill your own cup. I hear you, Valerie. But it might just look like that. Nothing's ever as perfect as it seems. All right. Got one more section here. Make this your first no-limit holiday season. Wayne says, make up your mind right this minute. This is going to be your greatest holiday season ever. You're going to have a sensational time at this year throughout the entire festive holiday period. No hassles, no headaches, no depression, and most important, no holiday blues. This is not only going to be your first stress-free end-of-the-year celebration, it's going to surpass your wildest expectations about what a holiday season can be. You are about to embark on, in a word, your very first no-limit holiday. Wow! Dr. Wayne Dyer, you really sold it. You've got me pumped up. I'm excited. I think that's one of the things I love most about Wayne is he's really passionate about what is possible. Dream bigger, reach higher, imagine what you really want. Tell us how you really feel. You don't have to accept a victim mentality and be like, well, this is just how it is. It's always going to be that way. Empower yourself to do things the way that make the most sense for you. So the emphasis here is on being positive. And he's got some no-limit strategies. Keep in mind, it's never too late to have a perfect holiday. Don't be depressed by memories of past Christmases. Do it now, the way you always wanted it to be. Give the gift of love every day of the holiday season and beyond into the entire season of life. Say it out loud, give them a hug, resist your resistance, and demonstrate that love. And after a trauma, perhaps the death of a relative, he has an interesting suggestion here. He says, have your first holiday celebration away. New surroundings provide less painful associations in the beginning. So, as some of you probably already know, my father died in 2019. And I was very close to him. He's a very dear man. I'm very thankful that I had him as my father. I was very shocked and devastated when he died, like really, truly died. He was the same age as Wayne, by the way. So I guess my dad lived a little bit longer, 4 years. And that first Christmas after my dad died was so hard. Like all of the holidays for that year, the year following his death, Easter, Halloween, birthdays, Christmas, New Year's, anything that we would have normally celebrated with him, his absence was tangible and painful. And everybody's a little bit different, but I really felt like I wanted to do things different. I wanted to feel like we were moving forward and not be overwhelmed by a sense of loss. So choosing to do your dinner maybe at somebody else's house or a different location, or go to a restaurant instead of cooking, or, just changing things up a little bit. If you've had a breakup or you've had a loss, or you just can't be with your friends and family this year because of travel issues, try doing something differently, and you might get through it. So it's been a couple years now, and in some ways it still feels really fresh, losing my father. But then I realize when I'm approaching the holidays, it's not as debilitating as it used to be. It feels a lot more integrated. So I want to give you some hope if you lost somebody this year, that it never goes away. Grief changes you forever, but it gets more integrated. Sorry, I wish I had better news, but I hope that helps. There are no shoulds or have-tos other than those that you've imposed on yourself. And Wayne says you will find each present moment of the holiday season something to savor and enjoy. Really an opportunity to practice the benefits of mindfulness. And after all, that's all any of us get during our short visit here. Precious moments to either live and cherish or waste away with negative thinking and actions. Every moment of our lives affords us a choice, and the results will astound you. This thing called life is a miracle, he says, each and every particle of it, and the holiday season is a celebration of the miraculousness of it all. I find it especially poignant reading these words from my teacher who has passed on, just seeing him spell it out there about how much he valued and cherished the time that he had here. And he says he really loved the holidays. Maybe we can too. So to recap some of the points here from Wayne: cultivate a positive attitude, shift your expectations, don't try to do it all, don't compete, don't try to do what you think everybody else is doing or what Hallmark makes it look like they're doing, or even the way you used to do it. This is a new day. This is a new year. Start fresh. Take action on loneliness or depression by being of service. Reach out to others. Release the pressure. Be flexible with your plans. Be mindful and live in the present moment. And take responsibility for your own happiness and well-being. Yeah, that's it, folks. Advice for some self-care in the holiday season with some tips from Wayne on No More Holiday Blues. I hope that this was helpful. I will be talking more about this topic on the next podcast episode coming out on Sunday. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, and more. Get all the links and more details at nadiadelacruz.com. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Nadia Delacruz or get the link on my website. And next month, we're going to meet back here for another Facebook Live and hopefully another Zoom call with Wayne's advice for the new year. We're going to talk about setting resolutions, pros and cons. And I will see those of you who are joining me at the Zoom call at 5 o'clock. The registration link is in the event details. And if you missed it, you might get another chance next month. Thank you to everyone who spent this time with me today. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, everyone. Much love to you all. May this be the best holiday season yet. And I'll see you soon. Namaste.